Hey, what's up, everyone? I hope you are all doing fine and enjoy the new material series I am recording. And I was back on the streets and I found a nice new shiny car paint. It's actually from a bike and it's like a red metallic paint which has some clear coating which is a bit uneven. You can see some flakes on both sides, like some freckles on the right, and then some really nice flakes, as you can see here, and also some dirt on top of that. So in this tutorial, I will be trying to recreate this shader. And obviously, I don't have this HDR where you have a city like reflecting in the background. So we might get different results based on the HDR alone. But I will be trying to recreate it as closely as I can this material. And I am using the AL shaders, and I will be using the AL Flake to generate this normal map pattern for my reflectivity. So I have my my shader ball, and I'm pretty close zoomed in close to get all the same detail we have here on this edge. So this is pretty close. I'm now on 1800 times 2000. And so let's jump right in. So my shader currently is my default shader, and the first thing I want to do is disable the diffuse completely. And I will be using two specular loops. So one is for the base, and the other one is for the coating. And then in the AL shaders, the specular one is mostly the coating layer. So for now, I'll just disable the coating, and I will be just working with the metallic paint. And the first thing I want to do is change the mode to be metallic and the distribution to be GGX. And specular is turned on to 1. So already you can see we have a shiny surface. But the first thing I want to do is bring in this flake shader. So it's called AL Flake. And this needs to be connected to the normal, specular to normals, to this guy, normal pass here. So let's see what happens if we connect it directly. We want the out value to connect to specular to normals. Specular 1 normals, specular 2 normals, and connected. So this is what it currently looks like. We want the size, let's make the size bigger just to see if it does already work. So this is the effect currently, and this is the amount of flakes we get, and the size divergence is how much is it actually on the surface. Currently it's not working as expected, so we need an AI input vector, which is the P pass, which connects to the P in here. And then we should just be able to change the mode to be in object space and vector, and this should be it. So let's just see what we get. So you need to change the space from tangent to be in world space, and then you get the desired result. So currently we have these flakes distributed all over, and the amount is the amount of flakes you have in total. So if it's on 1, you just get a few glints here and there, and if it's on 1, everything is being filled with flakes. So then you have the size for each flake. The default was 0.01, 0.01. And then you get this fine amount of flakes, which are looking like this, which is already pretty close to what I'm getting in my reference image. It's actually, I would say, spot on. I make them a bit bigger just to visually see them a bit better. And the divergence then is the amount of tangent, like the normals being bent on that tangent. So you can see that the higher or the more I diverge, the more these flakes show up and are visible. So this is my current result. So let's change the color for the reflectivity to be this red tint. So I will use a color picker and just pick something in this area here. So you can see we're almost there already. So let's just adjust it a bit more. The edge color is also something red. Let's make it just a bit more stronger and more orangey, and change the amount of reflectivity to be darker. So now I'm trying to fine-tune those values so we get the desired result. And obviously we did not tweak the roughness at all, but you can see that the sun is more or less here and it's really soft. Like all the other ones are getting, all the other effects are catching highlights as well. So if I change the roughness just on the smaller section here, or let's go on this side, you can see what's happening. So this is now shiny and you can see all these flakes glinting very crazy. But we definitely want a rough surface. Yeah, I think this might actually work already. So the edge tint is there and we get the kind of similar color, boosting the F0 color a bit more. Okay, let's just switch the resolution back to be 100%, so it's a bit more responsive, the whole UI here. Don't forget to save. Right, so this is the current paint. And the next thing I want to do is create the coating layer on top, which gives us the nice reflection. So let's jump to specular 1 and change this mode to be, let's for this keep it dielectric. And then let's increase the strength and reduce the roughness to maybe something like 0.25. And now we can see that we get a pretty close result to what we see right here. It's just a bit, overall, it's a bit too shiny, I would guess, like the intensity in general. It's super clean and we get really white reflections from it. Let's just disable progressive. So what I would change now is the IOR, which I think is a bit too strong. So let's just dial this back down to maybe 3. And then we should get a bit less reflections on the front facing edges. And let's overall reduce the strength a bit. Something like this. Back to progressive mode. And the next thing I want to do is add a little bump map on top of everything. And to do so, I will just create an AI noise. And this will be driven with a remap as well. It's not always necessary, but I like to have more control, so I just create them directly as well. Bump 2D node, there we go. And out value is bump value, and bump value goes to the overall normal map in here. Did it create now another one? It did. Okay, let's just do this. So now we should get this one being connected to this guy's normal map. And currently, let's just update and see if it did work. There we go. We see definitely some patterns now on top of everything. So let's adjust this and make the size bigger. So we try to go to 0.2 in scale. And first let's change the mode to be isolate selected. And then because this is not connected to a bump map and not to a float value, it's hard to see the effect. So I will just connect this for a second to, let's just find something appropriate. Let's just connect this to diffuse strength just for the second. And let's see if this works now. Now we can see the noise in here. So I add a little bit of distortion just to crunch those edges and see that there is like a makeshift like drip of paint or something being more running down and then collected a bit more thickness. So this is what this effect should be achieving. And I think if we just reduce, or let's just try 2 levels for this, a bit more detail on it. And then just control the strength using either the remap or just the amplitude. And then let's see the shaded version again. And break this and reduce. Okay. So now let's just see what we get. I will for now just disable the spec 2 lobe, just to see the highlights without distracting from the metal paint. So it is definitely too strong. You can see it's working though. You can see there's little dents, and here's also a little bit of denting. So let's just reduce the amplitude a bit more, halving it. So now you can see a subtle effect happening. So now you see this bump here, and it's not a perfect straight line anymore. And let's see what else. If we can increase this a bit more. And update the scene. Yeah, it did not update properly. That's what I figured. Let's just retranslate again. Okay, it's still a bit on the strong side. So let's just try 0.05. Okay, it's getting definitely better. So let's halve this one more time and update the full scene. Okay, now we can see it's actually pretty cool. And going back over to Specular to enabling this. And now we can see what's happening. Let's see if we can see it better in these areas here, what's going on here. You can see this is like the main light source, and then it spreads all around this, and it's pretty similar to what we get in this area as well. So what we can still try is to get these like some dirty spots somewhere and just break up the specular roughness a bit, as if there were some smudges and not just perfectly mirror-like finish. And to do so, I will create a AI noise, and let's try a fractal. It's a bit more detailed, the fractal, which is not always good, but let's just try what it looks like. Remap float. And the out color connects to the input, and this one goes to the specular 1 roughness, which is currently on 0 to 5. So specular 1 roughness, disabling just for now the spec 2. Or we can actually go to the advanced tab in the shader and enable debug modes and check only specular 1 roughness slot. It's also a pretty handy feature if you just want to quickly check your inputs instead of using the isolate selected mode. Right, so it's definitely too small, or the frequency is too high. Right, I think something like this might just work. And then I want to reduce the amount of levels so we get these softer pools, and then I want to distort them and maybe add a bit more gain. And then I just want to work in those white areas. So I create another fractal inside the fractal. And this connects to color 2. So we have now a fractal inside of a fractal, and I will increase the frequency. So we get just tiny little spots, as you can see what the effect. Tiny spots. And this connects to the remap. And now I want to remap the black areas to be a certain value. So of, let's see, we have currently a value, press I to get the pixel information, currently 0. So let's just outmax, outmin a bit higher. So we get 0.25, this was my original value. And now we get on these white parts 0.25. So let's see what this looks now. if I change the mode to be off, so we get the shaded version. And it might be hard to see, but it definitely breaks up the surface a bit. Here you can see some blotches are not being rendered perfectly clean. We can exaggerate this a bit more just to make it more visible for the tutorial. Specular 1 roughness, and just change the second frequency a bit lower so we get bigger pools. Okay, let's just see if we see something now in these areas. Maybe we need to create AOV so we see the specular 2 passes, or just disable specular 2 just for now. There you can go. There you go. Now you see these pools of roughness. I guess here's something happening, and you get these specks of roughness. So we can also multiply this with an overall more broken up texture, like an AI noise. Let's use this one, and then create a multiply, like an AL combined float, and connect A and B, and this goes here. And let's just check in the map again, specular 1 roughness, like so. And this is the noise pattern. And we might update the scene to see the effect. Right, nothing happening. Why is that? This connects to input. We have it on metallic. It just seems that this node is not really multiplying. Okay, because maybe this is dark already. Let's just skip the remap and see. Okay, because it is already this dark. So let's just brighten up these pixels. And now we can actually see the noise being connected to this. And let's add some distortion and make them bigger again. 0.2, 0.2 and 0.2. So we see these bigger areas, and then these are being connected, and then this goes here. And now we see some interesting results. So we have like a broken up noise on top of that. So let's see how this resolves too. It's definitely nicer and we can see what is going on. We can try to brighten it up a bit more, just to give this speck a bit roughness to it, so it's not that perfect mirror finish. Maybe something like this is pretty nice. You can see that it's not perfect. You've got some dents using the bump. Increasing the bump a bit more. Let's go to 3.5. And let's update the scene. First save and update the scene. Okay. Right. So bringing back the complete shader now. And let's just render this, and then we see how this looks like and see what needs more improvement. Alright, as you can see the buckets filling in, we can actually see that we are quite close already. And the only difference is here the bump behaves a bit strong because it's a really planar surface, and it might be that the UVs are in UV space, the fractals are in UV space and not in object space. So this would be the only thing, but that should be quick to check. And then the only other thing I would see is we could add some dirt around occlusion edges. And we maybe can add like these black dots, which are like dirt on top or something. And we might add some scratches. So let's first check, let's just add the dirt part quickly. And I'm just waiting for this to resolve, and then I will refresh the render with the new dirt pass. But it can render in the background, so let's just set everything up. So to get dirt, we need to add it on top of the layers. So to do so, the dirt needs to go on top of the specular 1 pass, and this is actually quite a simple thing to do. We just need to change the strength, like reduce the strength a bit of the spec, change the roughness, and add a diffuse coating on top of that pass. So to do so, first thing is we have specular 1 roughness and we have specular 1 strength. So the first thing is an AI ambient occlusion. Let's start with that. And this guy connects to an ID slot, so we can see what we're doing. But before I interrupt the render, I'll just do all the node creations quickly. AL layer float. This is then the color. So this out color is a mask which connects to here, to the second one, and the first one, which is the current value for the roughness. For the strength is currently 1, so we keep it at 1, both on 1, and then this is the dust part, and this is the alpha, so this is a black and white mask. And for this top coating, I want to reduce, actually let's just think about this a second. Yeah, let's just reduce this by 0.25 and create another one, which is the top coating layer, like the spec color. Sorry, the diffuse color. Sorry for being a bit distracted. So this one connects to layer 2, 2A, and layer 1 is the color. So this needs to be an AL remap color, AL layer color. And this guy connects to the second alpha. First alpha is completely black, so this is the base diffuse, and which is 1. And then this guy is the dust on top, which is maybe something, let's try something like this color. This is the dirt or dust, whatever you want to call it. And this gets added on top using the occlusion. So the image is now finished. I will store this. And this is what it looks like. You can see it's a really nice reflection here. We get all the detail. And I think looking at this reference, it's pretty spot on. It might be that the color is not 100% exact and that the flakes are a tiny bit bigger than it is in here, but the overall effect is pretty close. So let's head over to this guy again and connect all these nodes. So the AL layer color connects to my diffuse color. And let's enable the strength for that. And this guy, which is the specular strength, connects to the strength, like so. And this one connects to the roughness, which is currently being set by this float. And this guy is my first one. And the second one will be my rough dust map. Let's just see if everything is connected properly. Looks like it. And this will be, let's say, 0.65 for the roughness for the for the dust. And this connects to specular 1 roughness. And let's update the render. And it might all look completely weird now, but we will see. It does. What I expected that, honestly. Okay, so let's see what the occlusion looks like. Changing the mode to isolate selected. This is my current occlusion, which is way too broad. So we want maybe 1 or 2 units of occlusion. Really, this is more than enough, I guess. And we invert those colors. So everything which is white now will be the dust mask. And we might need to increase a few more samples to this just to have a cleaner pass. And before we check the render completely, I want to add a fractal or a noise into the spread, which controls the amount of spread. So AI noise, connect this to the spread of the occlusion. There we go. And now you can see what we already have. Anyways, let's just make it first a bit bigger, 0.5 maybe. And see the result. So you can see that the dust is now sometimes more dirty, and then it's recessing a bit more, and it just gives a bit more realistic result. Let's add a bit more detail to the noise and a bit distortion. Let's see what we have now. Okay, so this looks actually pretty cool. I think the effect is now a bit too much. We just need to reduce this to maybe 0.1 to get a broader spread. And I think this is pretty cool. Get these bigger blotches. Okay, so this drives the occlusion. And let's just now check. The strength is here. So the strength is overall 1. Then we reduce the strength in these areas just a tiny bit. From 1 to 0.7 maybe. And then we have the roughness, which should get stronger because dust is really a rough surface. And we increase the roughness from something around 0.12 maybe, and then we go up to 5.5, which is pretty good. And then we have the dust color, which is overall black, and then we add this dust on top of that. And it's all driven by this one map. So let's see what the shaded version looks like. Alright, it's a really subtle effect, but you can see it's working as expected. We see some dust or some layer on these ridges. I just think the color in general is too yellow, so I just make it a bit whiter and a bit strong and a bit whiter. So now it's more like a white dirt layer on top of that. Okay, this is now possibly a bit strong. But we can actually drive the occlusion, make this a bit wider, like 3, and we should get a wider dust. Let's just check the isolate selected again and see what the fall of dust does. So this is just doing this. And if we increase the occlusion a bit more, let's try 5. So it was on 2, like so, and 4 is like this, which is maybe a bit nicer. Creeping along the edges. And just reducing the amplitude a bit so we don't get this much spread. Let's just lock this node for a second to see the live effect by toggling this amplitude. Alright, so I think it's pretty white here in this corner, but it's very occluded, so let's live with that. What else? I wanted to create these black spots, so save this quickly, and then we head over to the creation of these black spots. Okay, I just checked if the UVs are in object space, which they are. So to create those black spots, this is actually, I will just disable the reflectivity on this layer. So I will disable the spec 1 and the spec 2 in this area, like adding black spots. And all I need to do is maybe create we can try a flake pass with a really small amount. Let's just see how this looks. So I just had a little crash again, so I will just create the air noise again and create an AL remap and then connect those two together. And for now, I will just connect this to the specular 2. Where is it? In here. And I want to drive this, so if I actually disable this, it should get really dark. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. So I will connect this to the strength. and make sure that we have just really tiny values for this. So let's see, currently this should be really blotchy, which it is, as expected. And if I go to isolate selected, I see the bump. And we have a bit, it's a bit much, so we try to increase the frequency to 2. And then we will remap this whole thing really crunchy. Let's just bring down the whites, really crunching it down. So now we get these black spots at random positions, which should simulate these spots here. And they should actually reduce the specular amount. And I will connect this map as well to here, also to the specular 1 strength, which is connected to a node. So specular 1 strength is this layer. And this guy will be connected to the default, to the top here, which is currently on 1. So this guy connects to the input here. I think that was wrong. This one connects to here. There we go. So input 1, and then we have the dust on top, like so. And now we should see, if you go to the shaded mode, some black spots appearing, which are these elements right there, which are mimicking these dirt spots, whatever these are. And they are random, so we get them a few times everywhere. And yeah, this will be, or this is the final render, I guess. I will let this iterate through and post the final render to the description below. And let's just compare those textures, the reference to the render again. So it might be that it's still overall a bit more shiny, but this is really simple to adjust. Just reduce the strength or add a bit more roughness, more breakup, and then you actually get this. But let's just do one last thing and change the flake size. So we go to wherever flake is here. Currently flake is at 20, so let's go down to 10. This was actually the default value. And now we should get a bit more, a bit smaller flakes. And we can also play around with the divergence a bit. So currently this is no flakes on 0. And if you want to introduce, it was on 192. So the more you increase, the more they get diverged and the more they spread out. Yeah. All right, so let me render this and then you can see the final result. And thanks again. I really enjoy your feedback on the videos and all your nice comments. So keep me active by responding, by interacting with me. Post some sample renders of your tests, your paint renders, and let me know how it goes. If you have any difficulties, if you have any requests for different tutorials, feel free to contact me. Yeah, thank you guys, and tune in.